Good afternoon and welcome to the government's daily briefing on COVID-19. Today I am joined by my colleague Vijay Daryanani, the Minister for Business, Tourism and Transport. Today is in fact our 60th daily briefing, the first one having been on the 17th of March. Since that time, all ministers have appeared before you, as well as the Director of Public Health, Dr. Bhatti, representatives of the GHA and Elderly Residential Services, in particular the Acting Medical Director, Dr. Rawal, the Commissioner of Police, the Civil Contingencies Coordinator, and our aim throughout this process has been to be totally transparent and to keep you fully informed of the government's plans, as well as the COVID situation from a public health, GHA, policing and civil contingencies perspective. Crucially, this hasn't just been about telling you what you can and cannot do. It has also been about giving you advice about what you should do, about how COVID has changed our lives, and about how our behavior has needed to change during the current crisis, but also about how we interact with each other in the future. We have imposed a lockdown and interfered with your rights and liberties. We have not done that lightly. It has all been for the protection of our citizens, to prevent the GHA from being overwhelmed, and ultimately to save lives. We have managed to keep the infection rate in Gibraltar very low and have not had a single COVID death. That is the way we must keep it. As we move towards the different phases of unlocking and the relaxation of measures, we must continue to be on our guard. We must constantly remember that there is a virus still out there waiting to pounce if given the opportunity to do so. Let us not give this deadly virus that opportunity. Let us continue to act as responsibly as we have done until now, albeit in a new and different kind of normality. Today I will give you some further details about the reopening of schools. I will, however, start with the COVID figures for today. Total swabs taken have been 5,156. Results received 4,990. Results pending are 166. Negative results 4,725. Confirmed 147. Active cases 2. Recovered 145. These results include the frontline targeted and systematic sampling program, a crucial element of our strategy going forward. In the last 24 hours, there have been 31 attendances at A&E. Of these, 3 had COVID symptoms and all 3 were swabbed. There were no admissions to the COVID CCU and 2 admissions to John Ward. Of these 2, 1 has already had a negative swab result and the other is pending. These figures show that we continue to be in a good position. We have only 2 active cases. Both are at home and are well. We continue to have 147 confirmed cases. We had 146 confirmed cases on the 10th of May, so we have had an increase of just 1 confirmed case in 1 whole week. All of this is very good news indeed. But as my colleagues have repeatedly said, so long as there is any positive case out there, we must continue to take measures to protect ourselves. On the 12th of May, we published the government's route map for easing restrictions. That route map includes the education roadmap for a partial and limited reopening of schools for the remainder of this term. The education roadmap sets out 2 steps, one on the 26th of May, that's a week on Tuesday, and the other on the 16th of June, which coincides with the start of summer hours in schools. We have said on a number of occasions, and I would like to repeat today, that the education roadmap, as indeed the whole of the government's route map, is a fluid document which is liable to change if the circumstances relating to the spread of infection of the virus which causes COVID-19 change and the conditions for unlocking set out in the government's route map are no longer satisfied. As we move to the implementation of the education roadmap and, as I said, the partial and limited reopening of our schools, our primary consideration is the safety and well-being of children and staff. The government's route map sets out 6 phases for unlocking. 26th of May, which is the education's first step, falls between phases 2 and 3, and 16th of June, the education step 2, being the start of phase 4. Gibraltar has so far succeeded in reducing the rate of infection of the COVID-19 virus. The reproductive, or as it is commonly known, the R rate, is now close to 0 in Gibraltar. There are, as I have already alluded to, only 2 active confirmed cases of the virus. Condition 1 for unlocking, as set out in the government's route map, is that the total number of confirmed cases is rising at a pace of 7 or less new cases per day. Gibraltar has seen an overall rise of 6 new confirmed cases in the past 21 days. There is now in place an ongoing systematic mass testing program. The Public Health Laboratory at the University of Gibraltar, which I visited this week, will shortly be capable of processing 300 tests per day. That is approximately 1% of the population each day. And to put that in context, if the UK swabbed 1% of its population every day, that would be around 650,000 tests. And you can understand the scale of that when the UK are struggling to manage 100,000 a day, and we're going to be doing 1% of our population every day. But our mass testing program has to be accompanied by aggressive contact tracing and isolation whenever a new positive case is confirmed. So we are moving from a scenario of confinement and lockdown to easing of restrictions, together with a totally new strategy to identify, to track, to trace, and to isolate the virus completely. And overall, so far, we have had around 16% of our population which has been tested. 2,149 frontline staff have been tested as part of the targeted and systematic sampling program. This includes the testing of exactly 385 teachers, all of whom have tested negative, with just one result pending. We currently do not have a single active confirmed case of staff engaged by the Department of Education. Of the 147 confirmed cases, only 8 have involved persons aged 19 or under. There is currently not a single active case in that category. These figures can, of course, change. However, based on that information, the current risk assessment and advice by the Director of Public Health is that the risk of infection in giving effect to the education roadmap is very low. The Director of Public Health therefore advises that the education roadmap can be implemented safely. There will, of course, be a number of prudent mitigating measures also given effect, including staggered entry and dismissal from schools, staggered breaks, small group sizes, and regular hand hygiene routines. As we know, most schools in Gibraltar closed on the 24th of March of this year. And since then, we have maintained childcare supervision facilities at Notre Dame, St. Anne's, and Westside. And in addition, St. Martin's has also been open. We have operated home learning platforms for primary and secondary school children, with children at St. Martin's also having access to home learning. As I've said, all schools, as part of Education Step 1, will now reopen on the 26th of May. Year 2 children will be expected to attend their lower primary schools, and Year 6 children are expected to attend their upper primary schools. The rationale for the selection of year groups is outlined in the education roadmap. Years 2 and 6 will be moving to a new school in September, and important transition work is always completed with these pupils during this term. It is critical to do some of this work with these children in order to prepare them for the transition to the new school. Hence our decision to bring these 2 year groups back to school first. With regard to the secondary sector, we have been monitoring announcements in the UK related to the intended pathway for secondary schools. In particular, we have been monitoring any decisions made in regard to the year groups who find themselves in the middle of examination courses. It will be important for us to make sure that any decision we make does not place our students at a disadvantage in relation to their UK peers. In the roadmap, we did not specify which year group will start secondary first, but in line with our approach in all other mainstream schools, we committed to there being 1 year group attending Bayside, Westside, and College. After careful consideration, we have decided that Year 10 students will be returning to school on the 26th of May. Their return will be managed carefully, as indeed will the return of Years 2 and 6, with each year group being divided in half and being given specific time slots within which to attend. Parents of children of Year 2, Year 6 and Year 10 will be advised of the specific times relevant to each individual in due course via the school's own platforms. We also feel that it is important to give all Year 12 students some contact with their teachers before the summer break. Year 12 will therefore return to school before the end of this term. The Department of Education is working hard with the Teachers' Union in order to finalise the plans for the return of Year 12 pupils. We will share details of these plans as soon as they are available, and that will be very soon indeed. Also, as from Tuesday the 26th of May, any child who needs access to the childcare supervision facilities, the service which we have been providing all along, will be able to do so at their usual school. In other words, the school that they are enrolled in. It is important for all parents who will be requiring access to childcare supervision facilities to note that they must fill in the Department of Education's form by Thursday of the week before. This form, as we have said already, can be accessed via the Department of Education's website, www.education.gov.gi. It is critical for the team at the Department of Education to have accurate numbers of children who will be accessing childcare facilities the following week so that we can ensure that the necessary social distancing and staffing measures can be put in place in a safe manner. If parents do not submit the form by the deadline, we will not be able to guarantee supervision for your child. Parents of Year 2 and Year 6 children should note that they also need to, if their children will be registered, or if they want their children to be registered for childcare supervision facilities, they will, in addition to the partial 2-hour return to school, they also need to return the form so that we ensure that their needs are catered for. And home learning will continue for children of year groups not returning to school and for those in year groups returning to school who are unable to attend for medical reasons. In the next few days, we will be publishing a document providing guidance on the reopening of schools. The guidance, which will be available on the education website, will include details on the inspection of premises, on steps being taken to minimize the risk of coronavirus spreading. It will provide guidelines for teachers, staff and parents and will answer key questions which you may have. Finally, I want to acknowledge the work done by my team at Education, led by Jackie Mason and Kerry Scott, the administrative staff and the teachers and staff in all the schools who have stepped up to the mark in a remarkable way in order to continue to provide an education service to all our children in testing conditions, as well as providing facilities for those children of workers who are not able to stay at home and whose children needed to be supervised. I also want to pay special tribute to all of those who have been involved in the production in the schools with 3D printers and other resources of over 4,000 visors, 1,000 ear savers, 500 door hooks, and hundreds of scrub bags and scrub hats. That is an incredible achievement. All of these items were delivered to the GHA for use at St. Bernard's, Mount Alvernia, Ocean Views, Hillside, and the Rook COVID testing sites. Thank you to all of you who have made that possible. And with that, I will pass on to my colleague, Vijay Daryanani.
Thank you, Gilbert. Good afternoon, Gibraltar, and hope you're enjoying a restful weekend. As you will all be aware, your government has announced the most exciting and ambitious plans ever for a radical change in traffic in Gibraltar. But this is not only about traffic. This is about our future, the future of our children and grandchildren, about how we live our daily lives and the quality of the air that we breathe. You will have heard how air quality has improved dramatically over the last 2 months. We must capitalize on this situation. There has to come a time when we have to say enough is enough. That time has now come, and we have to all work together to make a success out of this new normal. The faster we act, the greater the benefits will be. People tell us that there are too many cars on our roads, that there's too much pollution, and that we are breathing all sorts of toxic fumes into our lungs. We need to do something about this. We need to be more alert today so that we can be alive tomorrow. Your government has taken the bold decision to restrict entry into Linewall Road, Chatham Counterguard and Europort Avenue. This is not about traffic. This is about our quality of life. We must aspire to a better Gibraltar, a cleaner Gibraltar. Taxis, buses and other public service vehicles, deliveries, residents and businesses in the area who are only accessible through Linewall Road will be allowed. Our elderly who live alone in the area have nothing to worry about. My ministry will issue them with the advocate permit so that their family members or carers can visit them as always. As from tomorrow, cars registered in the area will start receiving permits. Government is looking at other options for the future on how to permit cars from entering this zone. One is the automatic number plate recognition system, where registered cars will travel as normal and those not allowed to enter will be flagged up and then fined. This is only one example. Chatham Counterguard, which has become an entertainment hub, will also be closed for traffic. This will allow the restaurants to use the area for more tables as we move into this new way of doing things, observing social distancing guidelines. This is only the start, as the government has some other ambitious plans for this area, which will be based on our child-friendly city policy. Watch this space. Europort Avenue is another area which will see this exciting new change. We will only allow school and residential traffic onto this thoroughfare. Another measure that will be introduced on the 1st of June will be parking fees at Midtown Car Park. Gone will be the days of free parking in the centre of town. Unfortunately, we cannot allow this if what we want to achieve is a green Gibraltar with less cars. Your government is also looking at a park and ride facility at Devil's Tower Road Car Park and other sites. We will be offering attractive prices so that tourists and visitors can park here and then walk into town, just like in any other city. Adequate and clear signage will be provided so that service is noticeably visible to newcomers to Gibraltar. I have been asked by many people if the restricted use of Linewall Road could possibly lead to congestion in other areas. Like every new scheme, there will be challenges, but I think the whole package will lead to less cars being used. People will realize that it is better not to drive. It is more convenient not to drive, and above all, it is healthier not to drive. We're also looking at how to increase the use of electric vehicles and make it advantageous if you own one. We will allow owners of these to continue using Linewall Road as normal, irrespective of where they live in Gibraltar. The government is also considering the banning of delivery vehicles that run on fossil fuels on Main Street. It is simply unacceptable that the first thing people going to work or our children going to school should do is inhale these toxic fumes. Before COVID came along, I held positive conversations with the Chamber of Commerce and the Federation of Small Businesses about this. These will restart soon. We cannot lose the momentum. We need to invest in our environment, and we need to invest in a healthier Gibraltar. There are many things about the lockdown that people will want to leave behind, but cleaner air isn't one of them. I have also engaged with food delivery businesses and informed them of the government's vision of wanting them to convert their motorcycle fleets to either electric or to consider using delivery bicycles. I will help them to do this by providing financial guidance so that their businesses remain profitable. Last week, I also met with my opposite number on transport, Elliot Phillips, and the leader of Together Gibraltar, Marlene Hassan Naon. Together Gibraltar had a similar scheme on Linewall Road in the election manifesto of 2019. We are happy to work with them and with the GSD on how to move forward on this issue. I gave them more details on our thinking about Linewall Road, which I will share with you today. On Friday, I met with the Transport Advisory Committee. This committee includes a cross-section of our community. A very productive discussion was held. There were different views expressed on how the plan could be implemented. but there are no objections, in principle, to the plan itself. I have received over 400 inquiries in 48 hours by email and phone from members of the public. Some have been concerns, but most have been ideas put to me for consideration. I would like to thank those who have participated in this exercise. From the outset, the government has stressed that we will carry out a comprehensive consultation exercise and that this is a pilot project. Therefore, Line 1 Road would close on Monday, the 1st of June, as we proposed, except for defined categories of users. However, it will open for the rest of the week and then close again at the weekend. It will operate on the basis of having restricted access on Mondays, Saturdays, and Sundays, initially during June. This will allow us to monitor traffic patterns and carry out a live consultation with our residents on a daily basis. We will make changes as and when required. We understand there is concern in the community, but we want our people to embrace this new idea, and therefore we will carry this out in a phased approach. That is to say that from Tuesday to Friday, nothing will change at the moment. Is it going to be difficult? Of course it's going to be difficult. But as I have said before, if we don't do this now, future generations will judge us harshly for not taking the right action at the right time. I believe that as your Minister for Transport, I think this is something we must do now. We are also working with our public health officials to be able to commence our bus service, and an announcement will be made in the near future. We are also working on an increased bus service, which will include added services for our school children. The government will not be introducing a road tax. This is something of the past, and it had its failures. We are looking at a pollution charge. If we decide to introduce this, the revenue raised will not pay for general government projects. We are considering using these funds for specific traffic and transport-related green programs. We want to give you a child-friendly city that you will be proud of. I would like to mention my friends on Main Street, in the hospitality sector, and in business generally. I know you are all worried, and I know that you're going through a hard time. But let me reassure you that your government is working round the clock to make sure that the economy starts functioning as soon as possible at the levels we have been used to over the last few years. Insofar as Task Force Future is concerned, my colleagues Albert Isola, Gilbert, and I have been working with our respective teams. Within my tourism responsibilities, I have held meetings with numerous commercial entities all over the world, some well-known names, to try and attract them to Gibraltar. This work will not stop. This government will rebuild our economy and aim to make it stronger than ever before. You have my word. As you know, we have now started unlocking the rock. But please, this does not mean that things are back to normal. Far from it. We cannot let our guard down. We need to continue maintaining social distance. We should stay at home for as long as possible and only go out if absolutely necessary. We must also keep on washing our hands regularly. You have done an excellent job in keeping our numbers down. Let's not stop now. I know it's frustrating. The summer's around the corner, and normally at this time, we are looking forward to our program of festivities. We will enjoy National Day again. Our children will enjoy the fair again. And all of us will enjoy an even better music festival again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, BJ. And now we move to questions from the press. Christina from the Chronicle.
In terms of the Lima Road pilot project, if the government is so convinced in the worth of the scheme, why has it been watered down before it's even commenced? Have you taken into consideration the impact on businesses in the area as well in that?
Well, thank you for the question, Christina. Well, I disagree when you say that it's been watered down, because it hasn't been watered down. What we're trying to do is we're very keen that the consultation exercise is thorough, and therefore I think it would be better if we did it like this, in that we are going to have a live consultation exercise. So on Monday we will close the roads, so we will see what happens. We will see the effect, and will give us the opportunity to change things as we go along. So that is the main reason for wanting to do it in this manner, in a staged manner. So it's no question of watering it down. And insofar as businesses are concerned, the businesses don't need to worry. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of the businesses who've contacted me, and I've told them that they will be allowed access into the area, and nothing will change for them.
Even for places like the petrol station, which relies on the incoming traffic from that area.
Well, I mean, I understand their concern, but the people who want to go and fill petrol can use that station without needing to go onto Limewell Road. So I mean, they will have to see how this affects them. But I don't really think that it will affect them to a level when their business will encounter any problems.
John.
Okay, yeah. Following up on these on Christina's question, have you checked out the Q Wisely company, which has claimed that the most amount of pollution is caused by static vehicles in a traffic jam? And if that is the case, do you think that Linewall will make that situation better, or will it actually increase the amount of pollution around the city centre, especially in the area of the Ragged Staff Gate? This is a question I put to the Minister for the Environment this week, and he said that you could take it.
Well, I think if people start walking, if people start cycling, and if people start using the buses, there won't be any pollution, and there won't be a queue of cars, and there won't be any congestion on Limewell Road. On Queensway. But
how can they cycle if the? Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't the Linewall closing of traffic only go from Duke of Kent House to the other side of to around Caporras around there?
Yes, it will close from Orange Bastion to Duke of Kent House. That's right.
And so does that mean that there's no access across the town on bicycle from one side of the town to the other? There will be still traffic in those areas, right?
There'll be traffic, but as I say,
that doesn't really encourage bicycle usage, does it?
Well, if there are less cars, then people will. People should cycle, and if people cycle, there will be less cars. So I know where you're coming from, but really it's a catch-22 situation. So if the idea behind this is that people should walk, more. The reason why we're putting these sort of restrictions in place is that sort of encourages people to walk more. So people should leave their cars behind. People walk more, people should cycle more, and people should use our buses more. So if that happens, then there won't be that many cars on the road.
And
so, John, can we go?
I just want to say, the bicycle highway, will that be installed in the end over the top as
yes,
it was originally proposed?
We're looking at a few areas around there to put segregated cycle lanes in. Yes.
Okay.
We'll come back to questions from you and Christina.
Yep.
First, we'll take questions from those members of the press that are not here today.
Yes, exactly. And the first one is from GBC. And can the Minister for Education confirm how many days or hours on average teachers have been working each week since the 24th of March? Pupils have not been taught the national curriculum in schools since the 24th of March. In light of the low risk of COVID in education, what is the government's thinking in only returning 3 years groups to school for 2 hours from 26th of May, with all years returning for half days from the 16th of June? Shouldn't the government be attempting to make up for nearly 3 months of lost time, especially given research that shows closing schools for extended periods can do lifelong harm to pupils and it widens inequality?
There are several questions there, all rolled into one. Let me say, first of all, that nothing would make me happier than to be able to open all the schools on the 26th of May, to have all the children back and all the teachers working in a normal environment. We're not in a normal situation, and we haven't got to a normal situation yet. We've just published the Unlock the Rock document, which has a series of phases up to phase 6. I've mentioned that we're taking the first education step between phases 2 and 3, and the second one at phase 4. So this is a slow, gradual, and paused approach, a staged approach, and it has to be that way. Let's remember also that as we take these steps in education, other steps are being taken elsewhere in Gibraltar. businesses have started to open. The lockdown itself, as a matter of compulsion by law, is going to end next week. New measures are going to be in place. We have to take stock of where we are at each particular stage. And we're reviewing this on a weekly basis. Tomorrow we will have a meeting of Cabinet, and the first thing we will obviously consider is moving to phase 2, which actually starts tomorrow, and that will presumably be approved by Cabinet tomorrow based on the information that we have. So the starting point in education is that all children should be in schools. They haven't been, and that is unfortunate, and we haven't been able to have them in schools. But it's not the same, not just Gibraltar that's seen that. We've seen that in Spain, in the UK, throughout the rest of Europe, and we see some countries having some return to schools. The UK, with which we have to compare ourselves because of the curriculum, if not for any other reason, because our students follow the curriculum that is followed in the UK, the national curriculum that is set in the UK. Their students are not back in school. They're talking of coming back as from the 1st of May. They're just talking again of 2 or 3 year groups, those at critical stages of their education, and they haven't even decided that yet. We're going to be taking 2 steps. Everything that I've announced, we've said we're bringing back years 2, 6, 10, and 12. In the second step, we will review where we are then, and we'll see where we go from there. The question also asked about how teachers have been working. They've been working in a very different way to what they've normally been working. We've had the home learning that teachers have had to cater for, whether they are in school or they are at home. We've had the school facilities operating as childcare facilities. They've been open at weekends. They've been open extended hours from 7:30 in the morning till 8:30 in the evening to cater for children of key workers. They've been open in school holidays and during the Easter holidays. All of that has been manned by teachers who would not normally have worked in schools during those times. We have worked 3 shifts throughout with 2 teams of teachers in each shift. And those that have been at home, and there have been some at home constantly because they've been advised to stay at home because they've been shielded for medical reasons, and they've been advised not to have contact with other teachers and children in schools. And they've also been working. So I'm very pleased with the way this has operated from the staffing point of view and from the way the service we have provided to the community. It is not a question of leaving children behind. Quite clearly, we want the children to be educated and to have the children in schools. They've been supported. It's been 2 months, and we're going to start getting some children back. I am sure the children will recover. But let's keep an eye also on what happens in the UK, because our children progress at the same pace as in the UK. So when the UK announced that exams were cancelled, they were cancelled not just for the UK, but also cancelled for our children here. And we don't know what steps they're going to take for next year. But we're actually in a good position because we're going to start bringing our children back as from 10 days' time. So we're in a pretty good position to start with.
Thank you. The next question is from YGTV, also for Minister Likudi. You mentioned that today is the 60th briefing. The Unlock the Rock document confirms that tomorrow is the final briefing. How does the government plan to continue informing the public over the coming weeks now that the daily briefings are coming to an end? How will you guarantee the same levels of transparency and accountability?
Well, we're going to a new phase in the whole process. I mentioned that we're going to have a meeting of Cabinet tomorrow, and all of this will be discussed in Cabinet. But as you've indicated, the Unlock the Rock document confirms that tomorrow will be the final daily briefing in this format. We have always been a government to appear before the press, to give press releases. We're constantly giving press releases. So the level of transparency and accountability will not change. The daily briefings will clearly change. But tomorrow, importantly, the Chief Minister will be here as part of the daily briefing, and he will give details as to how we're going to work going forward in terms of our information to the press and to the whole community as from tomorrow. So the Chief Minister will confirm those details tomorrow at the last daily briefing. Christina.
Mr. Likuri, what is the government's latest information on the prospects for university students in the autumn term? And what is your advice for students both returning to university and those who are due to start in September?
Well, there is a great deal of uncertainty, and I appreciate that. We still don't have clarity. We know that universities in the UK have closed. They are providing assistance to the students who are now involved in the process of final coursework and appraisals. And we very much hope that things will return to some element of normality by September, so that the process can continue as near normal as possible. The reality is that this will be determined by what happens in the UK. The UK, unfortunately, doesn't have the same levels of low levels of infection that we have in Gibraltar. They've had 30-odd thousand deaths. They still have deaths on a daily basis, but they seem to have put in measures which they are telling us bring these matters under control. The R rate, although it varies throughout the country, is below 1, as suggested by the UK government throughout the country. So we hope that progress will be made, and they will be making announcements. It will be for universities to decide how they're going to manage as from September, but we very much hope that our students will be able to return in some form, even if not physically, certainly that the courses will continue, and that new students will be able to enroll. But we'll have to keep our eye out on what happens in the UK for that one.
Contact with your counterparts there to keep abreast of what the situation is?
Naturally, the Department of Education is constantly in touch with the universities, and we're also in touch with students to see what they're being told by their university. So we are actively monitoring the situation. We very much hope that things will return to as near normal as possible, but to the extent that it doesn't, we will provide whatever assistance is necessary to our students.
Minister Dayanani, I just wanted to ask, what sort of assistance will you be giving to businesses when the BEAT program finishes? This is especially in reference to the fact that many will have to start paying for rent from the 1st of July, and also they have restrictions placed on them even when some of them are able to open, like bars and restaurants. Will you be able to help them and self-employed people be able to? Oh, shit. Will you be able to help them and self-employed people to get back on their feet after this crisis has ended?
Well, regarding the BEAT, this is something that we're reviewing on a monthly basis. So I suppose you're referring to July, where all that is under consideration. We'll be meeting with CELAC hopefully in the next week or so, and we will be discussing all these matters with them. Regarding the bars and restaurants, well, I'm told, and I was actually delighted to hear that the restaurants are full with reservations as from the 1st of June. So maybe if you want to go out to eat in Gibraltar, you won't be able to, because there won't be tables available.
With restrictions.
Yeah, with the restrictions. I mean, I understand that they'll be operating at 50% occupancy. But look, yeah, I mean, we've been approached by the bars and restaurants, and I think the government has shown that we're there to help businesses. I mean, no government in the history of Gibraltar has paid wages of private business ever before. So I mean, that is as far as we have gone. So I think businesses don't need to worry. The government will be there for them, and they will be there to help them if they need our assistance.
Will the same be the case for self-employed people who might be struggling to continue their businesses after this time?
Yes, like I said, we have helped the self-employed people over the last 3 months, over April, May, and they know that they can apply for BEAT in June. And if representations are made to us and we feel that they're fair, yes, of course.
We'll go
Yeah.
back to questions from our remote journalists.
And this question is from GBC for Minister Darianani. Government has rowed back on plans to close Linewell Road. Is this an acknowledgement that the plans are more complex than initially believed and the government is not ready? Can Minister Darianani also confirm how much local cars will be charged at Midtown Car Park as from the 1st of June, and whether Gibraltar will definitely receive new buses to support measures to reduce driving? If yes, when will these be on our roads, and if no, how are people expected to get to work as from September with children filling up the buses in the mornings?
I've counted 4 questions there. Well, first of all, the government has not changed its position on closing Linewell Road. The government will be closing Linewell Road on the 1st of June. What we can't be accused of is one moment of rushing into something, and then we're accused of changing our position because we want to keep on consulting people. And the idea is that we need to consult people more. Now, if it means that I have to change any plans at midnight on Sunday the 31st of May, so that will make it better on the Monday the 1st, I will do so. This is not about this. This is about making sure that when we do it, that we do it properly. So that is the first point. We haven't changed any plans on closing Linewell Road. Regarding Midtown, I think the cost of Midtown is £1.80 an hour, and that is what we are. That's what we will be charging. I think that's from 7:30 in the morning to 7 in the evening, and then I think it's 80 pence. From 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning. So that won't change. Yes, buses, we're working on buses. We're definitely working on buses. We will have extra buses. We will have increased frequency as soon as really, as from the 1st of June, we have to also take into account that we need to take the COVID issue into account, because there will be social distancing issues to be taken into account for the buses. But rest assured that we will have more buses.
Okay, and the next question is from YGTV, also for Minister Darianani. Can you give more details behind the idea of a pollution charge? Will this involve a higher charge for most polluting vehicles, including commercial vehicles? And why do you feel it is preferable to a road tax?
Well, I think that the road tax is, something of the past, and we don't really want to go back. We want to move forward, and the idea is not about a tax as in a tax, because from what I'm told is that road tax was the revenue on road tax was just used for other projects. The intention of the government is what we are considering is that if we have this new pollution charge or pollution tax, whatever you want to call it, it will be primarily for green projects related to traffic, projects related to transport, so that we can, so we can enhance on those projects with our policy of a child-friendly city.
Okay, thank you. There are no more questions.
Thank you very much. As I indicated earlier, today is the penultimate of these daily briefings. I also mentioned that tomorrow will be the last, with the Chief Minister coming. He will give details of the discussions we will have in Cabinet tomorrow morning in terms of moving to the next phase, and also of future press conferences and information briefings given in relation to COVID-19. That, of course, means that this is my last appearance at these daily briefings, and I would like to take this opportunity of thanking all the staff in the various departments for which I have ministerial responsibility, including, I've already mentioned, education, but there's employment, port, maritime services, fire and rescue services, and the utilities, for not just keeping things going during these difficult times, but for their dedication and their incredibly hard work and commitments. A few weeks ago, in one of these daily briefings, I spoke of the Rainbow of Hope, which was painted as a mural by the children of St. Joseph's on the last day before the school closed. I spoke of that being a message of hope and indeed expectation for the reopening of St. Joseph's and, of course, of every school. I'm so glad that that is actually going to happen on the 26th of May. I also said at that time that it was a message of hope in a future where we will have learned lessons from this. Lessons about how we can do things differently, how we can be more efficient, and how we all have to play a part in the collective well-being. That is indeed the big lesson that we all have to take from this. Let us now move on as we strive not just to rebuild our lives, but to regenerate and reinvigorate our Gibraltar for ourselves and for future generations. Thank you. Good afternoon.